You're listening to Something Cheeky, a collection of podcasts where two sisters discuss TV, books, and movies with just enough irreverence and far too many pop culture references. Welcome to Something Cheeky, where we discuss the TV series Vikings. I'm Nikki.
I'm Rosanna.
While I have watched the entire series, Rosanna has only watched up to what we're covering today, which is Season 2, Episode 9, The Choice. In this episode, the Vikings turn out not to be invincible after all when they're outwitted by a Roman general that died 800 years earlier. Alright, Rosanna, what was your reaction to this episode?
I really liked this episode.
Good.
I enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of good stuff happening. Not good for them, necessarily.
For the Vikings?
For the Vikings in general. But I thought it was a well-done episode.
Good.
I really enjoyed watching it.
What was your favorite quote this time?
The quote I chose is Ragnar to King Horik. And this is after Lagertha has said, we need to decide if we're going to stay here or if we're going to go home.
Mm-hmm.
Ragnar says, well, King, what are we fated to do? And I really liked that attitude that Ragnar had. And I was feeling the same sort of sass towards King Horik at this point. So I definitely identified with this quote on a personal level.
I've seen Bjorn be pretty sassy lately, but
yeah.
I think he gets it from his dad, who was the king of sass.
It's hereditary sass.
It totally is.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Lagertha, queen of our hearts.
Oh, she's the best. I say it every episode because it's true. Every episode.
Yep. Let's get into the action. We start out in Wessex, and most of the episode actually takes place there. Applestand is reading about Caesar's battle. He's pretty fast at translating. I have a feeling it wouldn't be that exact word-to-word translation if it were someone actually translating in the moment. It seemed pretty quick, but, willing suspension of disbelief and all that.
Ain't nobody got time to wait for him to translate.
Yeah, Ecbert is really impressed about how Caesar used terrain in battle strategy, and you can see he's, planning to use it to fight Ragnar. And it's also obvious that he has no idea about the fragmented leadership among the Northmen right now.
Right, that's a big one.
Yeah, because of the attack, he's like, well, it seems like Ragnar doesn't want to negotiate, he just wants to fight.
Horik.
So many problems would be solved if the Vikings just had email, as we've said before.
Or cell phones.
Yeah.
Or postcards.
Athelstan offers to go speak to Ragnar since he knows he wants land. Ecbert says he's too important. Did you think that was true, or does he just prefer to fight at this point? Do you think he actually has a lot of care for Athelstan?
I think that he likes having a confidant with regard to, the secret room full of salacious material. I think he likes having somebody to talk to about it, and I think he values Applestand.
Yeah.
I don't know if he cares about him.
It's a good distinction.
I think that's the best way to say it. I think that, cause sort of the same way Ragnar was with Applestand when he first got him as a slave. Eventually he became part of the family, but in the beginning it was, what was his value?
Ecbert is awfully insightful in this scene. He says to Applestand, I'm sure you would prefer if Earl Ragnar and I made peace. Perhaps then you could be at peace with yourself.
The thing about King Ecbert is he keeps things very close. It doesn't seem like he's always saying every single thought that comes to mind. I think he keeps a lot internal. But I also think that he's pretty smart.
So a little bit later, Athelstan is praying on his own and has this whole kind of, existential crisis, just wondering if the pagan gods are really false gods, which is interesting to me also because everybody thinks, at least in this show, everybody thinks everyone else's gods are false.
Right.
But they still accept them as someone else's god and not like a figment of that other person's imagination. They talk about the gods and your gods, even though you think your gods are I think your gods are false.
I think that Applestand and Ragnar are the only people on this show, and probably is pretty typical of the time, that would even consider that it could be both.
Yeah.
Nobody else is willing to even imagine that that's possible, because that would be sacrilege. That I mean, good grief, just talk to Floki for 2 seconds. That guy is devout.
He's fanatical.
Yeah.
There's a book series called The Iron Druid Chronicles. I think I've mentioned it before, where...
Is this the one with the big tree?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we talk about it with Yggdrasil before. But one thing is that the whole pantheon of gods for all religions are all real in his world. But they kind of wax and wane as they're believed in or not.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's kind of like American Gods.
Oh, yeah.
Have you read that book?
I've read part of it. I never did finish it.
I didn't really like it.
I lost patience.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the story. However, it was the same sort of idea that the gods were fading as belief was decreasing.
Yeah, there was a big thing about the Norse gods in the Iron Druid Chronicles. They were also fading like a lot of other gods. And how some gods weren't even really there. They kind of existed, and every once in a while there'd be like a resurgence of a cult or something for them, and then they would be back. But I really like the idea that they're all true and real.
Yeah.
And they all kind of exist together on a different plane, which is fun. And Athelstan puts a lot of, I guess just a lot of stock in what he sees, not just his faith. He feels that he's seen the gods in the sky and the sea. And I wonder if that is just because of the influence of the Vikings, just indoctrination into their culture. That they say every time the thunder rolls that it's Thor and his hammer. And that, you hear that enough, you start to believe it. And if that's really what makes him believe in these other gods.
Also, I think that's a sign of intelligence when you're willing to question what you believe based on what you see. I mean, I guess it's faith versus science.
Athelstan's also praying that both Ragnar and Ecbert live, which is sweet, and obviously I think he's torn in his loyalties. Just like with the gods. The same with his friends.
Well, and also just like the gods, I think he's starting to think, why does it have to be one or the other?
Yeah.
Why can't I be loyal to both of these men? Why can't I believe in both religions?
Mm-hmm. He wants an open relationship with his religion.
But really, though, both of these men that he's struggling with are also, they're in the same position. Ecbert is believing in these two religions. And even Ragnar in this episode says, I hope that someday our gods become friends. Yeah, so even he's open to the idea. So yeah. It's these three men. I forgot about Ecbert when I said that, but he's also sort of in between two religions or trying to decide what he believes.
Ecbert seems so enamored with the Roman culture as well, which is really interesting. He's kind of a historian, but a little bit obsessed too. Well, and I mean, the fact that he put so much stock in it. And I mean, yes, Julius Caesar was a very famous and amazing general, but he just takes on faith that what is written was true and will work, that he uses that for his own battle strategy. So we get to the Viking camp. Ragnar's mad at Horik, and Horik says he never planned to negotiate, only to get revenge, which he's been pretty clear about that this whole time, so it shouldn't be a surprise. He says, I will kill King Ecbert, and then perhaps I shall talk to him. It's nice when they can have a sense of humor. Floki is asked for his opinion, and he says they worship false gods, doesn't actually give his actual opinion about what they should do, just his religious observance of them. So Horik declares they're going to go fight tomorrow, brooks no opposition, and Bjorn is wondering about death when he's talking to Ragnar. And there's this weird tidbit. Apparently the seer is kind of dead, but not truly dead.
So I thought that was weird too. And then I thought about it, and I wonder if what they mean is that the seer sees death. As in, when he's seeing things that are going to happen, he sees people's deaths, so he's like living with death.
Okay.
Or I don't know, maybe he actually is dead, I don't know.
I was imagining in A Song of Ice and Fire with the drowned god, when you have to drown and basically die and be brought back to be part of the religion.
That sounds terrible.
Don't you remember that?
No, I don't.
Oh, no, in the show, too, in Game of Thrones, when one of them on the Iron Islands comes back, and they baptize him, but it's drowning him in the water, and then CPRing him back.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the crazy uncle priest that's just insane. I think he and Floki would get along pretty well.
I bet they would.
I have a feeling they'd have some similar gods. I was about to say, it's interesting how many parallels different religions of the world have. Then I remembered Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire are fictional universes. Those are not historical religions.
Well, they might be to somebody.
Maybe.
I would not be surprised if George R.R. Martin started his own religion.
Ragnar, at this point, tells Bjorn about the prophecies about him that... And it sounds like he's acting like it's one or the other. Either he's going to marry the daughter of a king, or he's going to sail a sea with no tides.
And I remember that not being clarified by the seer.
Yeah. Horik and Floki are having a conversation when they see Bjorn. They talk about Odin's favorite son, Balder. The gods swore oaths that he would be safe, that nothing would injure him. And of course, this seems very suspicious. The gods all tested their oaths and tried to kill Balder, but he was immune from harm. And Loki didn't like this and wanted to kill him. I looked up the story to see how much was accurate to the myth. It was pretty close. So, Balder was the son of Odin. He was the wisest of the gods. He was very fair. At one point, he dreamt of his own death and told his mother Frigg about it. And so she is the one who had every object on Earth vow not to harm him. Here's the loophole. She didn't make the mistletoe vow it. It was apparently seen as too unimportant and non-threatening. So Loki heard about this, and Loki is very tricky. He created this magical spear or arrow, depending on the exact story. And he took it to where... This is hilarious to me. He took this weapon to where the gods were all enjoying their very new and exciting pastime of just hurling things at Balder. I was imagining poor Balder like, I'm just trying to read, man. Stop throwing stuff at me. Just want to relax. Leave me alone. And Loki gave this weapon to Balder's blind brother, Hoor, Hoor, who accidentally killed Balder with it because he threw it at him like everything else. And some say that if it was an arrow, Loki actually guided the arrow to hit. Because I'm not sure I really trust the marksmanship of a blind man. Just gonna say, he's not Daredevil.
That's fair, yeah.
And so poor Hoor got killed for this.
Aww.
And it turns out that Balder's death was the first step on the path to Ragnarok.
Oh.
Yeah, he was burned on a ship. He went to the underworld where Hel was. And Hel said she would release him from the underworld if all the objects, alive and dead, wept for him. And somehow they got everything too, except for the giantess Thok, who was apparently Loki in disguise. He's like, nope, not doing it. Screwed you in life and in death. So Balder had to stay in the underworld until after Ragnarok. Yeah. So Loki's a jerk.
And dresses in drag.
Yeah. As a giantess of all things.
Cool.
Yeah.
But also rude.
So I was a bit worried about Floki. He smiled a lot during this story as Horik told it.
Yes, he did.
And that made me uncomfortable.
I was really worried that Horik was trying to tell Floki to kill Bjorn.
Mm-hmm.
But Floki cares about Bjorn.
He does.
Bjorn is not somebody that Floki's like, you're a terrible person. I don't care if you die or not. No, he's like his uncle.
Mm-hmm.
So, shut up, Horik.
So I totally agree that Floki has a lot of the feels for Bjorn, as he should. Do you think that would necessarily stop him if he thought that the gods wanted him to do something? I mean, there are plenty of people that, whatever, somebody told me to kill my family and I didn't want to, but I had to.
Well, I don't think it would keep him from killing him if he thought that's what the gods wanted, but I think Floki can tell the difference between Horik talking about the gods abstractly and Horik trying to manipulate him.
Okay, that's fair.
Horik is not subtle.
No.
And I'd like to think that Floki is bright enough to see that.
He does seem pretty smart.
Kinda, yeah, right?
We get to the battle. So all the Vikings are traveling to the fighting ground. Did you notice there was just a moment where we saw all of them pass this stone circle that Floki seemed really interested in?
No.
Yeah, they just walked by it. It was only on the screen for a few seconds, maybe. But it was just those old Celtic circles, the standing stones, that are all over England.
For time travel.
Oh. Only for
right?
women in the 40s.
No. Not just women.
That's true.
A man traveled through.
Yeah, that's right. Listeners, we're talking about the plot of Outlander.
Right.
These standing stones that...
It's not male or female.
It's true.
You have to have the genetic...
Yeah, that was a stretch with the guy.
I would agree with that, definitely. Plus, that guy was annoying in every scene he was in.
Yeah, I liked him in the book, but in the show...
He was all right in the book, compared to the show, I suppose.
He was far more charming in the books. Listeners, you should watch Outlander.
Or read it, or both.
It's not just written for women kind of book. I really don't think it is.
No, it's a lot of action and history.
Yeah, really interesting Scottish history with the Jacobites.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's very interesting. Plus, there's a lot more sex in it than Vikings.
So much.
Yeah. There are some scenes, actually, that are really tough to watch because they're so violent, too.
That's also true.
Yeah.
It's a pretty intense series.
It is. I'm interested to see the next season, which should be out soon. But when I saw this stone circle, I wondered if the Vikings had any idea, or even if the Saxons had any idea about the pagans that lived there before Christianity came to England. Because they don't have, the same gods, but...
Didn't they talk about the giants being there before?
Yeah.
So do you think they thought that was something to do with it?
Maybe. I'm not sure if that was connected with a religion in any way. But like the Celts and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly where Stonehenge is in relation to Northumbria and Wessex and Mercia and all that.
I don't know. I'm super bad at geography in general, and history, and math, and pretty much all the subjects.
So they arrive at what appears to be the planned battlefield. And it has a sloping ground, just like the Roman text mentioned that Ecbert had been talking about. So it seemed pretty obvious at that point that Ecbert was going to be using Caesar's battle plan. Mm-hmm. Borrow from the masters, right? It's always good.
Definitely.
Ragnar, as we expected, is smarter than Horik. He has a feeling they shouldn't go down the hill. I don't think he realizes exactly why he feels that way yet, but I think probably what he does realize, maybe unconsciously, is that the Saxons chose this battlefield. I mean, they're up ahead, so it's obvious that's where they're going to fight. And they're not going to put themselves in an obvious disadvantage, like being at the bottom of a hill for no reason. So even if he doesn't realize they're going to attack them from the side, he still knows something's off about this.
Yeah, this isn't his first fight.
It's not his first rodeo.
Exactly. And stupid Horik, if he was smart, he would listen. But we've established multiple times he's not smart.
He's not circumspect. That's what it is. Locke Lamora had to learn that word in the beginning. Horik did not get that lesson.
Well, because he's a king, so who's going to tell a king he needs to learn anything, I guess?
Listeners, you should read The Lies of Locke Lamora. So, surprise, surprise, they get ambushed from the side. Horik, I'm not sure he even sees it, because he's just running off down the hill to go fight. Mm-hmm. And if he does see it, he doesn't care. And Ragnar is very angry that they just walked right into this. And Floki looks conflicted for a second before he runs off to Horik. Floki has quite a journey in this episode. So Ragnar has to make a shield wall because there are people coming down the hill at him. So now, even though they were in a supposedly better position on a hill, somebody on a higher hill is coming at them and they're losing.
And they're totally outnumbered.
Oh, yeah.
By a lot.
And not just by foot soldiers, but by cavalry.
And we've seen them win when they're outnumbered, but this is too much.
Yeah, they have far fewer numbers. And then on the other side, Lagertha has to make a separate shield wall, which is barreled into by all the cavalry, which just looks... it's really scary. I mean, I'm just a person standing here with a shield, and here comes a horse riding right at my head.
I'm just a girl with a shield standing in front of a cavalry saying, please don't run me over.
I'm just picturing Hugh Grant in a battle scene, which I can't imagine him ever being.
No.
He should be like, oh, I'm so sorry, as he stabbed someone in the face. I do apologize.
He is very polite.
Uh-huh. Killing people accidentally as he stumbles and...
Yeah.
Oh my god. That would be ridiculous. It's looking pretty tough. The Vikings are killing a lot of soldiers, but it looks kind of like it's iffy at this point. And then Ayla's freaking people show up too. They were already outnumbered. They already only had foot soldiers. And now they have, double the number of people to fight than they did before. The battle did give me a lot of respect for the way the Viking leaders actually fight with their men, unlike the Saxon kings.
Right. They just watch from the hillside.
Yep, so safe. And I know that's not always the way that English commanders act. Sometimes they do get into the fighting, but It does seem often they're safe somewhere in the background instead of leading the charge. And then Rollo gets hit and trampled by Aethelwulf's horse. And that looked really bad. Just the jerking up as the horse ran over him. Ugh. So he's down. Ragnar sees this and gets the Saxon off a horse with Torsten's help so he can ride off, which that was one little touch that I liked about this that you don't see in a lot of action scenes in movies and television shows. Usually if you have, some named characters in a scene together, they're doing something really big. Like one saving the other one's life or something. It's not little trivial stuff like this. Usually that's always the main character and extras. And so it was nice to see the cooperation just naturally happen instead of trying to really focus on any time that you see them together in a battle scene doing something major. I liked it. So at this point, Ragnar's up on a horse and he starts to look around and sees that they're just losing really badly. More Saxon cavalry are coming down the hill, and then he just starts to yell, "Run! Run!"
I bet he hasn't had to do that very many times.
Yeah. Floki has to kind of pull Horik away from killing someone to leave. Bjorn sees Ragnar fighting off several men and runs over to help him. I wonder if Bjorn has more confidence about fighting because there's a prophecy about him that indicates he will live beyond this fight.
It's all adrenaline and instinct at this point, I think.
But he's a pretty formidable fighter. After the battle, the Vikings have retreated, and the English are left on the battlefield. Athelstan is walking around the field, while very disturbingly, soldiers are making sure that the dead are dead and the wounded are also dead by stabbing them with spears as they lie there. Luckily, right before one of the soldiers stabs Rollo, who's lying very still on the battlefield, Athelstan sees him and stops the soldier. Ecbert wants to know who it is because he sees that Applestand takes an interest in him, and Ayla actually comes over and identifies Rollo. I wondered for a moment if Athelstan wouldn't have identified him just to protect Rollo, but Ecbert sends over a priest to treat him, since it turns out he is still alive after all, but he is seriously wounded. Athelstan looks up and sees a murder of crows flying around in the air, and all I was imagining was that he was seeing them as Valkyries, maybe. Back at the Viking camp, Horik is claiming that the battle outcome was fated, and Ragnar still thinks they should have talked to the king instead. Horik is not the person I look to for logical, sound arguments. Bjorn is very angry that they were defeated and that Rollo's dead, supposedly. And then Ragnar says, "We do not know if he is dead. It would take a lot to kill him." Which makes me imagine that Ragnar's probably wondered how much it would take to kill Rollo previously in his life.
He probably has tried to kill him if they grew up together.
Yeah. I still really like your theory that they're not full brothers.
Yeah, I feel pretty strongly about that.
It would explain so much.
It really would explain a lot.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
And Ragnar at this point, because no blade could touch Bjorn, he dubs him Bjorn Ironside.
Yeah, why Ironside?
Because no one cut his side?
His side? No one cut any of him. Why isn't it Iron Body or Iron Skin?
Because those don't sound as awesome as Ironside.
Ironside? That sounds better than Iron Skin? I think Iron Skin sounds better.
It sounds weird.
Or Iron Man. Nope, that's it. From now on, it's Bjorn the Iron Man.
He becomes one of the Avengers.
Mm-hmm. He crosses all fandoms.
He can probably pick up... What's Thor's hammer called? I can never pronounce it.
I just call it Thor's hammer.
So when Bjorn Ironman is named, Floki and Horik trade this look. Like, he's even more like Baldur.
Also, we're gonna get some mistletoe and mess this up.
So then the Vikings have to decide whether or not they want to leave England and go back to Norway.
Should I stay or should I go now?
So we get to the kings, and they are celebrating the victory with a big ol' Saxon kegger. Ayla, very, very drunk, is wondering how Ecbert thought of this battle tactic, and Aethelwulf says, oh, he probably read it somewhere.
And Ayla says, reading for monks mostly. Very little use otherwise.
I have a feeling that Ayla and Horik would get along really well if they weren't mortal enemies.
Totally.
I think they're the same kind of king.
Yes.
They both, have, I'm sure, dealt with a decent amount as kings, but I think they've both gotten pretty complacent in improving their minds, if they were ever interested in that in the first place. They're no Ragnar who wants to learn new things.
No, not at all.
I never really think about the aftermath of battles, but they show that in this, where the people are cleaning blood off shields and cleaning up all the weapons out in the courtyard. It's such a practical scene that I never would have thought of. I have not seen that in anything else. Also, I would not want to be the guys who have to clean the blood off all the shields. That sounds unpleasant.
Somebody's got to do it.
Since they don't bathe super often, you probably smell like old blood for a while. Ugh.
Gross.
So Applestand goes to see Rollo when he's lying with the wounded. Rollo sees Apple's monk's robes and says that he's betrayed them, and if he had the strength, he could kill him. Which made me wonder, I'm not quite sure how Rollo thinks they were betrayed by Applestand. Just because he's surviving with the Saxons, he didn't do anything actively against them.
No, and I keep thinking back to when Horik said Applestand betrayed them, and I still can't figure out what he supposedly did.
Yeah, I don't get it.
He didn't have a choice about staying. Why are we trying to act like he had a choice?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's just a weird kind of justice and morality that I don't quite understand or what, but... So Vikings burn their dead on pyres that are out in the water. And we see Torsten for a second, and he has this cut across his face that looks just like Tyrion in Game of Thrones. The show, not the book. He still had his nose.
Right. Pretty big difference in the two on that one.
Yeah. So we get to planning in the bath. Bunch more mostly naked men. Aethelwulf is about the only attractive one there. The show is not made for the female gaze. Ayla wants to attack and finish off the Northmen, but Ecbert is cautioning against it since he thinks that the more Northmen would come because of both greed and revenge. Which is neat too. At some point in history, there's what's called the Great Heathen Army that go and attack England, which is just like a massive Viking army. So I think he's right. They're pretty vengeful.
Almost as much as the Komori.
That's what I was thinking too. In Lies of Lamora. So instead of killing them off, the Vikings that are there, Ecbert thinks they should hire them as mercenaries to help win Mercia for Princess Quenthrith. And Aethelwulf suggests sending Athelstan. Do you think that Ecbert allowed it in order to not show his friendship with Athelstan?
I don't know why he did that. I was very confused when he did, because he had just said no, and now it's okay. Maybe he thought that since they were beaten and they gave up, that they wouldn't be as violent, which that doesn't make any sense.
Or he would have lost more than he was willing to lose in the confidence of the other men there if he had admitted the reason he didn't want Athelstan to go.
Yeah, that could be.
I mean, he was a monk turned pagan turned God knows what.
Literally.
Yeah. And so really not a trustworthy person in everyone else's eyes.
Well, and Ecbert can't explain to them what Applestand is doing for him.
That's true.
So he can't say he's too valuable to me to lose because he's working on, my secret texts. So maybe that's part of it.
When I was willing to send my son.
Right. Yeah, I could see that might cause a few raised eyebrows, especially by his son.
Yeah.
So you're going to send me, but you're not going to send the priest?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I don't think that Aethelwulf likes Applestand very much, and that he didn't when he first met him, and it does not seem to be changing.
No. Athelstan has not earned any points with Aethelwulf.
Athelstan goes to Viking camp on a donkey. Everybody else gets horses. I don't know why they couldn't give him a horse.
Yeah, if I was Applestand, I would have said, you know what? I'll walk.
Mm-hmm. It's almost embarrassing.
Yeah. He's the same height as sitting on the donkey as he would have been just standing.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. And he went by himself. He didn't get an accompanying guard like everyone else who's gone got.
I also thought that was weird.
I don't know if it's just because he's not of any rank, or if they just don't care. Or if Ecbert doesn't want it to seem like he has any special treatment.
I mean, has Ecbert said to anybody why he even keeps him around? I mean, has he even come up with, an excuse?
No.
That's kind of weird, right? Don't you think people would wonder?
I don't know if anyone has noticed how much time they spend together. Because most of it's in that room that seems like maybe it's hidden or no one else is allowed in. Also, who's going to challenge him about who he spends his time with?
Well, I would say Aethelwolf, but you're not. I mean, even if my dad was the king, I would still say, why are you acting like you like the priest better than me?
I'm not sure Aethelwolf is that direct. While he may be that sensitive, he may not want anyone to know he's sensitive about it. And Ecbert would totally make fun of him for it, you know it. Probably does not want to get any mockery from his father when he just wants to impress him. Athelstan is in full monk regalia. He's got the rosary around his waist, and the cross necklace, the monk's robes. This is not a great way to enter a pagan camp, I think, when you used to be one of them. Floki almost seems happy to see him look like this. Just confirms all of his suspicions, I'm sure. And then Bjorn remembers him from when he was a child, because he hasn't seen him since then. Since he was, 13?
But how long did he live with them?
From the time of the thing, when he brought him home, to when Lagertha left. I
thought it was weird that he asked if he remembered him, because it just seemed like, well, of course he remembers you. I mean, it's not like he was 6 when you parted.
Yeah, but still. Probably wanted to give him an easy out if he didn't have good memories.
Or if he didn't want to acknowledge him in front of everybody.
Yeah. Athelstan's very kind. And it's very nice.
He's considerate. You know, I mean, he's conscious of other people's feelings, and he tries to respect them.
Mm-hmm. He's really our moral compass here.
He really is.
Applestand tells them that Rollo was still alive, yay, but wounded. And also that Ecbert wants to talk to them. There's a lot of mocking from Horik and Floki. Lagertha says that they'll meet with him. Horik doesn't want to go. And Lagertha says, if he kills us, so be it. We're going to go anyway.
She's kind of like, you know what? Fine. We don't actually even want you there. We were just being polite.
Yeah. I was surprised when he actually did go with them.
I was too.
But, he doesn't want to be left out of negotiations, so.
Right, because he's a giant baby.
And Ragnar walks Athelstan part of the way. Turns out it's to protect him because there's an archer, I'm assuming Horik's archer, trying to kill Athelstan from the side. Or they just, he's not even, frickin' Horik just wants to kill everyone, everywhere.
And what does Horik have against Athelstan?
I don't know. So Ragnar, I don't know if he knew that there would be someone in the woods or if he just assumed, and that's why he went. Or if he started out just wanting to talk to Athelstan privately and then realized there was an archer. So Athelstan explains his conflicting feelings about religion to Ragnar, and then he gets his armband back, which is nice, except the look on his face is like, thanks, what am I going to tell Ecbert about it? Could just see him wondering if he can hide it in his sleeve.
You know Ecbert's going to say, but Athelstan, I thought we were best friends. Why are you wearing somebody else's best friend's necklace?
Poor guy can't win. He's the bridge between two cultures. And
yeah.
So we're going to get a hostage exchange. Ecbert has chosen Ayla to be the hostage, which is devious. If he lives, fine. If he dies, Ecbert is totally taking over Northumbria in a second.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And Ayla can't refuse without looking cowardly. But you can see he's really reevaluating their relationship.
Yep.
That scene was
I think he's thinking, I should have been paying more attention.
I thought
I missed some
warning
warning
but I
signs.
didn't have the power. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we see the Vikings coming up to the gates. And Floki thinks all this fuss is just completely ridiculous. Just to get Rollo, the betrayer, and Athelstan. Lagertha says, a good point, it's not just about that. It's about a lot bigger situation than just getting Rollo back. Floki and Ragnar have a little discussion about Floki's trustworthiness.
They sure do. Thank you for calling him out finally.
Uh-huh. He says, I am a trustworthy person. Ragnar just scoffs and looks meaningfully in Horik's direction. Floki looked shocked at this. Were you surprised at Ragnar's anger about this?
I was, kind of, because it doesn't seem like he's had that much of a reaction, even though he's seen it happening.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really glad that not only did he acknowledge that it was happening, but that he was telling Floki, I know what you're doing and I don't like it.
Yeah. It seems like Floki's been distancing himself since he found out Helga was pregnant and, proposed and said he wanted to have his own thing separate from Ragnar and all that. And I feel like that's what started this distance between them. They used to be such good friends, and that seems to be crumbling.
Well, I wonder, too, if maybe part of it is that Floki feels like they're not as close as they were before Ragnar became Earl. And maybe he's sort of testing Ragnar by spending all this time with Horik to see if Ragnar cares enough to say, what are you doing?
I wonder, too, if he suspects at all that Ragnar was just using him for his boat building, which is what started Ragnar's whole ambitious plans anyhow. Because Floki could build the boats that he needed to go west like he wanted to. And Floki was very valuable to him for that reason. I wonder if he thinks, was that the only thing he wanted from me? So King Ayla goes over to the Northmen's side, and Ragnar says, "We will not harm him, unless we have to." King of Sass, everywhere.
All the time.
And I liked that we got a king traded for King Horik, his son, Earl Ragnar, Earl Lagertha, and Bjorn. That's a lot of people for one person.
Yeah, and a person that is not worth that many people, as far as I'm concerned.
What did you call him before? Sweaty King Curly Hair?
That sounds like something I would say.
So we start negotiations, and Rosetta Applestand strikes again. He has taught Ecbert some Old Norse. Not much, just enough to start a conversation, and then he takes over all the translation. Freaking Princess Quenthrith is licking her lips at the sight of the Northmen. I really wish they would give her a little more dimension than just sex fiend. That is all that is on her mind all the time in this show.
Yep.
There's gotta be more to her.
There has to be, because look at the position she's in and how she got there. She must have ambition, drive, some intelligence, but they're just making her look like she just wants to get knocked up by a Viking.
Yeah,
that's all they're giving her.
It's unpleasant.
Yeah.
So Ecbert offers the Vikings money and treasure to stop the raids, plus 5,000 acres of farming land and Rollo for the safe return of Ayla. I would not have been surprised if he had Rollo killed in the middle of the night, just so they didn't have to get Ayla back. That would have really worked in his favor. I would not put that past him.
But I think the thing is, he never wanted to fight.
Yeah, true.
He's willing to negotiate. He wants to make a deal with them.
Yeah, but he doesn't necessarily need Ayla anymore.
No, but I mean, he shouldn't kill Rollo.
Oh, yeah.
Because that would, damage the relationship that he's trying to build.
I could say he succumbed to his injuries.
I suppose that's true if he doesn't care about him. But
yeah.
Athelstan would know.
That's probably true.
I don't know how strongly he feels about Athelstan's loyalty to him.
So they also say that they'd like to hire a lot of the Vikings to do mercenary work for Quenthrith, and they'll get paid a lot. Ragnar and Lagertha immediately accept the land and the money terms. Horik is not happy about this, but accepts, apparently. I mean, it cuts away. Mm-hmm. This episode has a few of these cutaways before we find out what someone agrees to do, which is weird. I get that they could do that once, but they do it at least 3 times in this episode. That seems kind of lazy, like they didn't feel like writing what that person would say as a comeback. Right. They just cut. I get show don't tell, but I think it's taken it a little too far.
Mm-hmm.
So Rollo returns, treasures are received, and Ayla leaves. And a whole bunch of the Viking men, maybe some women too, I couldn't tell, go off to be mercenaries for Quenthrith. Ragnar asks Applestand if he'll come back with them. He's saying he wants him to return while he's really just desperately grabbing his robes. It seems like he learned his lesson from before when he didn't say what he wanted when they left England. He just assumed Athelstan would come with him, but now he's grown emotionally. He's better communication skills.
He does have better communication skills.
And that's another cut away. We don't see what Athelstan says until we see Ecbert just sullenly looking at all the things that Apple left behind, including his cross. Just kind of moping around like he's been dumped. Also, this really feels like a love triangle. I'm just going to be honest. Ecbert, Ragnar, and Athelstan. So in Ecbert's courtyard later, we see the Northmen that have been hired for Quenthrith. And Ecbert says they're all great warriors. I don't know how he knows this. He doesn't know these men. They could be the worst people that are left.
Maybe he figures they survived the fight.
Quenthrith is examining them like horses. I'm just waiting for her to like look at their teeth. And then starts feeling one of them up. I'm assuming she grabbed his penis.
That seems like what we were supposed to assume.
Yeah, it's... This woman needs to learn about consent.
Personal boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
But to her, they're hired to be hers.
Yeah, I'm still not okay with that.
No, it's not okay, but I'm just saying, I think that's where she's coming from.
Well, she says she'd like to breed with them and feels like they would produce giants. And all the men are amused. She's so funny, this woman that's only thinking about sex all the time. What a hilarious person. It's annoying.
She's not like other girls.
Oh my god. It's like the worst. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's the quickest way to be. Basically to discount every person in your gender. Is to say, you're not like any of them. You're obviously way better.
Yeah, what's wrong with being like them?
Mm-hmm. So we get to Kattegat real quick. Thorin is training to be a shield maiden and wants to be like Lagertha. Aslog with the, why does everyone want to be like Lagertha? Even she said she wanted to be like Lagertha a couple of episodes ago.
Yes, she did.
Oh, she can't be surprised at this.
I don't think she is.
No. Well, Aslog frees Thorin and makes her a free woman and gives her a lovely gift. Do you think she just did that for Bjorn? Maybe to get, almost to bribe him to get on his good side? Or did she actually care?
No, I don't think she cares about the girl. No. I do wonder about her motivation. I think part of it is, as a token for Bjorn, hey, I'm helping you out. But I still feel like there's probably more to it than that.
Okay.
But I don't know what. I don't know why she would care if Bjorn likes her.
So we couldn't remember before, but I'm pretty sure that Thorin was the woman that Ragnar had flirted with way back when.
Yeah, we talked about that, and I don't remember if it really was her or not.
If it was...
That makes sense.
Freeing her so Bjorn can be with her would get her out of Ragnar's pool of available women.
Line of sight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Right, that's true. And even if it wasn't her, that's still not really a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very pretty.
But I don't think, even if she stayed a slave, that Ragnar would go after her when he knows Bjorn is in love with her.
I agree.
I mean, Ragnar likes chicks and stuff, but he loves Bjorn.
Ragnar likes chicks. He loves Bjorn more than he wants to cheat on his wife, maybe?
Right.
I mean, that hasn't always proven to be true, but...
I think he loves Bjorn more than he loves Princess Aslog.
So Thorin goes for a swim. It's very symbolic. It's not subtle at all. But it's her transition from slave to free woman. She's baptizing herself and being born again as the new person as she gets out of the water. Goes in with slave clothes, comes out with fancy new clothes. And jewelry, even. And she seems very happy. It was just a really nice moment that she wasn't beholden to anyone anymore. It was just her being happy about her life. And it felt good. And then the Vikings return on the ship. Siggy is really upset about Rollo because he looks bad. Athelstan is back, looking dashing and a little pirate-like with his clothes. He's already shed his Saxon clothes, and he got his ponytail. And I was just thinking, Floki cannot be happy about this.
No.
He was probably pretty glad to be on Horik's ship and not Ragnar's when Athelstan came back. He seems relieved with his decision and very happy about the decision that he's made. Aslog seems genuinely happy to see Athelstan too, and also welcomes Lagertha. God, I love Thorstein. He just grabs Applestand and hands him some ale and, drink, priest. I love him so much.
Mm-hmm.
And Apple says that he came back because they're all his family. Aw, it's so sweet.
It is sweet.
And then Bjorn comes back and is very surprised to see that Thorin is free and looks really nice in her new dress. And then we get to poor Rollo. This is another reason that I never need to time travel, because I don't want people to have to use hot knives to cauterize my wounds with no anesthesia of any kind. Also, I thought that was bad enough what they were doing to try to heal him, and then they brought out the wood for him to bite down, and I'm like, damn it. What's next?
I know. I was like, what else is there? Oh, yeah.
Broken leg.
Horse stepped on him.
Yeah. It looks like it may have been a compound fracture. His skin was broken.
It's kind of crazy he didn't get an infection.
That's what I was thinking. especially since they were on the ship for so long.
Yeah, and they're not clean.
Which also means that it would have started trying to heal, which made it that much worse when they had to go fix it, because they probably had to, mess with what had healed just to get the leg back to be set.
Probably some of it had to be rebroken to go back to the right way.
Yeah. Also, is Viking medicine ahead of Saxon medicine? How come none of this was done when he was in that clinic?
Yeah, I don't know that they really cared that much.
But yeah, it was amazing that just an infection did not kill him.
Yeah.
We end the episode with Horik and Floki. Another conversation about the gods and how they're on the same page. Really, really, we are on the same page. You'd totally go along with whatever I say, Floki. It just... Floki kind of sees this coming. He seems a little nervous about it. He keeps looking down. And Horik says he has a proposition, and maybe the fourth time in this episode, it cuts away.
Yeah.
We don't find out.
I think Horik is trying to be manipulative, but he's just so bad at it.
He really is.
You're not fooling anybody, dude.
I think he thinks that he's subtle, but to everyone else, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
So next week, we're going to discuss Season 2, Episode 10, the finale of Season 2. It's called The Lord's Prayer. I know the Vikings show titles don't often give you much.
Nope, they really don't. Maybe Athelstan is going to teach the Lord's Prayer to Ragnar.
Does that seem likely?
Maybe Ragnar's interested? He likes to learn stuff.
He does, that's true.
Maybe Applestand is going to get caught praying.
Dun dun dun. Forbidden religion.
God save him if it's Floki who catches him. Because, that'd be a thing.
Okay, Rosanna, what is your top 3 category for this episode?
The top 3 times I was wrong. Number 1, I did not think that the English would be victorious over the Vikings. Because the Vikings have fought larger armies and won. Mm-hmm. I mean, I figured it out about halfway through when the 3rd battalion came down. Number 2, I thought Rollo was dead.
Oh. Well, he wasn't moving for a long time.
Yeah, I thought he was dead.
How did you feel about that?
I didn't want him to have come this far and then die.
Okay.
I was disappointed, so...
It would have been him going out on a high note.
That's true, but...
And Valhalla.
That's also true. So for him it would have been fine, but for me it would have not been satisfying.
Yeah.
And I don't care what his character thinks or feels about it. It's how I care and feel about it. So.
Okay.
And then number 3, Athelstan did not stay in England.
Yeah.
I did not think that he thought he could leave.
Oh.
It's not that I didn't think that he didn't want to leave. I wasn't sure. But I didn't think that he would just get on the boat. Pretty much. I guess I thought that he might ask permission to leave. I don't know why he would.
Yeah.
But he's kind of into formalities. But he just left. And I'm glad that he did. I'm glad that he's where he considers to be home with family. But I was definitely wrong about that one too.
So, for predictions, back to Rollo for a second, because you were surprised when you thought he was dead. How long do you think he's going to live in this show? Do you think he'll make it to all through the 4th season that is out already? Or do you think he's going to die before then?
No, I think he's going to survive.
Okay. How come?
I think he's a big part of the show. I think he's important to the show. Mm-hmm. I think that they have spent a lot of time putting a lot into the character.
Yeah.
Because they plan on keeping him. Plus, he's good to use a sort of person for Ragnar to talk to, so we get information about what Ragnar thinks.
Yeah. I feel like Athelstan serves that purpose more.
Ragnar does not talk to Athelstan and Rollo about the same things.
Yeah, that's true.
He uses them for different discussions. I think it would be very, very, very hard on Ragnar if Rollo died. Maybe they don't want to try to figure that out. I don't know.
So, there is one more episode this season, and then we move on. What do you think is going to be the big action, the big climax for this season? Besides Athelstan teaching Ragnar the Lord's Prayer.
Maybe they'll update it. Our fathers, who aren't in heaven, Valhalla.
No. All fathers. Odin is the all-father.
All fathers. I like that, yeah. But it could be Valhalla / heaven, and it could be all father, our father. You know, we had such a big confrontation and fight scene in this episode. It's hard to say what the big fight scene, though, if we think back to the end of season 1, and if we base our prediction on that, nothing will happen.
It'll be episode 1 of season 3.
I suppose that it is likely there's going to be more confrontation between Horik and Ragnar.
Okay.
And Floki is going to have to pick a side, show some loyalty one way or the other.
So if that's true, which side do you think he'll pick? What's your feeling about where he's at right now?
I think that for whatever reason he's irritated with Ragnar, and I think that he agrees with Horik's opinions about the gods, but I very much hope that he realizes how dumb Horik is. Siding with him is not going to get him anywhere.
Yeah. Except
in trouble. I feel like Horik should just go home. I think Rollo will recover from his injuries. He'll probably walk around with a cool cane.
This guy is really racking up the scar count.
Yes, he is. I can't decide if Princess Aslog's gonna get pregnant again. It seems like that's pretty much all she does.
She's probably already pregnant again before Ragnar even got home. What about Athelstan? Is he going to... Do you think he'll become a warrior? It seemed like he's fought before.
Maybe he and Ragnar will have to have a sit down and talk about, now that he's back, what position he feels comfortable in or what his role will be in Kattegat.
Okay. Maybe he can be the new Major Domo, like that annoying little dude from Haraldson. Maybe he can be the new Major Domo for Ragnar. I hated that guy.
He was terrible. You know, Athelstan would always be a good advisor, I suppose, but...
It's true.
I think he was okay with fighting. He seemed like he was into it.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll just pick that back up, exactly where he was at before he was taken. And crucified, good grief.
I want to see Lagertha start training him.
He could be Lagertha's advisor.
Yeah, that'd be badass.
They seem like they get along pretty well.
So speaking of Lagertha, what's going to happen with her? Is she going to continue to stay in Hedeby? Or what? I mean, she's an earl now, so she has people to take care of.
Maybe now she'll go back and find some people that want to move to England and start farming that land. They're all going to have to go back to Wessex to make arrangements. And they're going to have to take people with them if they want to have farms. They need farmers.
Yeah. I mean, 5,000 acres is a lot of space.
Not for farms. I mean, it's a lot of space for living, but...
I guess that's true.
It depends on what your crops are, I guess, but it's a lot more than what they've got now.
Yeah.
And it's better soil, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good start.
So, before we get to Cheek of the Week, I thought I would propose a little change for next week's episode.
Okay.
So next week, we have the season 2 finale, and we are going to have it in 2 parts. We're going to do reaction, favorite quote, the action for the first half of the episode, and then predictions. And then we'll watch the second half of the episode. What do you think?
That sounds, I don't know, it could be really weird.
Could be.
But you know what the episode is about already, so...
Yep. Now it's time for Cheek of the Week, where we talk about something that we like and want to share with you. Rosanna, what is your cheek this week?
My cheek this week is a website/service. It's called postcardly.com. And this service is a way to turn an email into a real-life postcard that's delivered by the United States Postal Service. So this is a really great service for people that like to keep in contact with people. They don't know how to email, they don't have smartphones. But let's say you have pictures of your children that you want to send to grandma, and she doesn't have email, and you don't have time to print out a bunch of pictures and put them in an envelope and write out a letter. Or maybe you do have time and you just don't want to. You create a bunch of email addresses for the people that you want to send postcards to, and it's just whatever name you give them at postcardly.com, and then you put in their mailing address. And so then you get on your phone or your computer or whatever you want, you pick a picture that you want to send, and you open up your email, address it to that Postcardly email address, attach the picture, write in the text, and Postcardly prints the picture out as a postcard with the text on the back of it and mails it for you. And it is literally as fast as sending an email. It's a super, super cool service. I'm surprised more people won't talk about it, actually, because it's so cool. So that is my cheek this week. I recommend postcardly.com for all your postcard needs. To hear Nikki's cheek this week, listen to our Gentlemen Bastards podcast. Also, you can visit our website to find all of our cheeks of the week. You can learn about our other podcasts, like Gentlemen Bastards. You can send us questions and feedback, and you can support the show through our Amazon affiliate link at somethingcheekypodcast.com/Amazon.
That's our episode. Please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at SomeCheek and Facebook.com/SomeCheek. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Dig-a-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.